You don't belong here. Leave! The words came sharp, polished, and coated in disdain as Giselle Moreau, head hostess of Lux Bistro, stood square in front of Simone Carter, arms folded like a gatekeeper guarding a sacred hall. Simone, seated at a reserved corner table under a crystal chandelier, didn't flinch. She looked up slowly, her voice calm but unmistakably firm. "Excuse me" around her. Forks paused mid-air. Preston Lyle, a well-fed patron in an overpriced suit 2 tables over, leaned in with a smirk. Guess someone wandered in from the wrong side of town. Simone's fingers brushed over the surface of her phone as she set it on the table. "Face up." "I believe you're mistaken," she said evenly. "This is my reservation." Giselle didn't even glance at the screen. "No, ma'am. You don't have one. This is a private venue for our regular clientele." From the bar, Carla Vaughn, a longtime server, watched the exchange, then leaned toward the assistant manager. "She's about to cause a scene," she whispered. The jazz trio playing near the entrance fumbled a beat, thrown off by the rising tension. "Just before we go any further, I'd love to know, where are you watching from today if this story speaks to you? Hit subscribe. And if you've faced something like this, share your story in the comments. Your voice matters." Simone shifted slightly in her seat, her gray tailored blazer catching the gold lighting. "The mistake," she said softly, "is not mine." Preston chuckled aloud, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Someone should remind her this isn't a food court. The insult hung in the air like cigar smoke. Giselle, still expressionless, reached into the podium drawer, pulled out a thin, laminated voucher, and placed it neatly in front of Simone. "There's a stool at the bar. You can sit there if you'd like." Simone glanced at the plastic voucher as if it were something scraped off a shoe. "Do I look like I sit at bars waiting for scraps?" Vincent Reed, the restaurant manager, appeared beside Giselle, adjusting his sleeves. "There's no need to raise your voice," he said. Despite Simone having spoken in near whisper, "We double-checked the system. There's no Simone Carter on tonight's list." He turned the tablet screen toward her, a blank entry field staring back like a staged exhibit. "Unverified guest." He read aloud. Carla passed by again, whispering to another server as she nodded at Simone. "She's not letting this go." Simone's gaze sharpened. "And your lies are being logged." Elliot Nash, assistant manager, swiped across the screen of the host stand. "Reservation canceled," he said with a small shrug, not bothering to hide his grin. A middle-aged woman at the next table, wearing too many pearls and too little sincerity, turned to her companion and muttered, "Some people just don't know when to leave." Simone sat still, not raising her voice, not touching her phone. "I see what this is," she said, her voice even and razor-edged. "But this table stays mine." Maureen Tate, a socialite who hadn't missed a gossip column since 1987, leaned back in her chair, sipping her rosé. "This place used to be so refined," she said. Carla chuckled as she walked by. "Real CEOs don't argue with hostesses." Vincent dimmed the light over Simone's table. "Enjoy your evening," he said, walking off like a man who thought he'd won something. Simone tapped her phone once, then twice, launching a series of encrypted commands. She didn't stand, she didn't shout. Instead, she turned to the woman seated quietly across from her, Nia Brooks, CFO of Vanguard Solutions, and said, "He's triggered the sequence." Nia was already typing. "Confirmed. Staff directory and POS logs loading. I'll cross-check them against tonight's access history." Simone gave a short nod. Across the room at the bar, Elena Ruiz, Vanguard's general counsel, had her phone in hand, recording silently. Every frame legally admissible. Jasper Cole, a server watching from the shadows near the wine cart, narrowed his eyes at Vincent's smirk and pulled out his own phone, texting Simone one word: "Watching." At a window-side table, tech consultant Avery Quinn set her wine glass down and quietly began filming. She'd seen injustice before, but never this theatrical, and never this foolish. She tapped record just as Preston stood again, now louder. "You really gonna sit here and pretend this is your place?" he said, arms raised as if addressing a jury. "We all know the real patrons, don't we?" Simone leaned back, her face relaxed, almost bored. "You're just making it easier," she murmured. Nia held her phone under the table. Staff logs pulled. Giselle's had 2 prior complaints. Vincent flagged 3 guests for non-conformity this week alone. Simone smiled faintly. Text Roland. She pulled out her phone and dialed. Roland Hayes, the restaurant's owner. Answered after 2 rings. "Simone," he said, "it's not your night." "Huh." She didn't respond to the casual tone. "Check your hostess's file. And your manager's. Then check your phone logs in 10 minutes. Roland hesitated. "What's happening?" "Your staff," she said, "is costing you millions by the minute." As she spoke, Avery's first post went live, a short clip of Giselle saying, "You don't belong here." Captioned, "This happened at Lux Bistro tonight, in Beverly Hills." Yes, really. Within minutes. It reached 5,000 views. A woman in a sequined dress across the room gasped. Someone else dropped their silverware. "Is that video?" "From right now," Maureen asked. "She's filming this." Preston's jaw clenched. Carla turned to Elliot. "Take her phone." Simone's voice was calm. "You do that, and you'll be facing theft charges within the hour." Elliot hesitated, then stepped back. Giselle looked shaken now, her earlier resolve melting beneath the glow of 1,000 digital eyes. Nia leaned over. Foot traffic's dropped 40% in the last 4 minutes. Avery's phone buzzed again. She turned it toward her friend. 8,000 views. Simone rose slowly to her feet, not to leave, but to speak. "Your time's up," she said to Giselle, her voice low, clear, and final, behind her. Police sirens echoed faintly through the open bistro doors. The crowd fell silent, and Simone sat back down. Her seat was never up for debate. The music halted mid-note as the restaurant's POS system froze, servers clutching handheld tablets that suddenly displayed error messages, orders suspended in limbo. Simone Carter remained seated at her table, still and steady, watching Lux Bistro unravel around her without lifting a finger. Vincent Reed stormed toward the host stand, eyes blazing. "Ladies and gentlemen," he declared loudly, projecting across the dining room, "we're experiencing a temporary technical issue, made worse by a disruptive guest." His eyes locked on Simone, making no effort to disguise the accusation. Carla Vaughn, always eager to follow the dominant current, circled among diners, whispering to each table, "She's crashing the system. It's chaos back there." Preston Lyle seized the moment to shove Simone's table forward a few inches, knocking her water glass against the centerpiece. "This place doesn't need people like you ruining things for everyone," he shouted. The words carried. Gasps rose. Someone clapped. Security should be dragging her out. Another voice called. Jasper Cole, the quiet observer among staff, stepped closer and addressed Carla directly. "Do you have proof she's doing anything?" Carla snapped back. "Stay quiet. Jasper, don't get involved." Simone picked up her phone slowly, eyes calm. "Your lies are crumbling, and the world is watching." Vincent returned, finger jabbing at the POS screen. Her table's restricted. He announced, "She's not an authorized guest. We've disabled her seat." Elliot Nash chimed in from the podium, smirking, flagged as unauthorized in the system, permanently. At the next table, Maureen Tate leaned in close to Carla and whispered, "She's not Lux material. Never was." Vincent pulled out his phone and dialed, voice rising. "Yes, LAPD, please. We have an individual disrupting business operations. No, not violent, just refusing to leave. The lie hung in the air like perfume, sweet but poisonous. From the back, a voice piped up. Is this real? Another guest stood and walked toward the door, murmuring. I didn't sign up for this kind of scene. Preston seized the moment, raising his wine glass. Let's all take a vote. Who wants her gone? Some diners clapped. Others laughed nervously. She's not one of us, Preston called. Elliot, in a panic, triggered the restaurant's fire alarm. Red lights blinked. Sirens screamed overhead. Guests gasped, some standing. Simone stayed seated. And now, she said into her phone, they're manufacturing a safety emergency. Vincent stalked toward her, hand extended. Give me the phone. Simone didn't move. This is captured, logged, time-stamped, and backed up. He stopped short. Avery Quinn, still at her table, kept filming. Her previous post had already crossed 2,000 views on X. Comments streamed in unbelievable, classic profiling. This is what power looks like. Jasper made his move. He had overheard more than enough, pulling out his phone discreetly. He opened the staff chat log, where Vincent had messaged Elliot less than an hour ago. Keep the floor polished. Important crowd tonight. Let's not have anyone black near VIP windows. Jasper screenshotted the message and sent it to Nia Brooks. Nia, seated beside Simone, nodded once. Got it. Timestamp matches? Logged. Avery kept filming. Vincent just told the police she's disruptive. She said into her mic. Meanwhile, he's the one screaming at staff and guests. Preston loomed nearby. Red-faced. What are you doing? He barked. You can't film here? Avery didn't blink. You're in a public-facing business. There's no expectation of privacy. You should have thought about that before playing the role of plantation owner. Her words sliced through the noise. Carla reached over to dim the table's screen, but the display on the server dashboard suddenly shifted, instead of menu tabs and payment options. A single message scrolled across all visible POS screens. Prioritize elite guests. Limit disruption profiles. Avery gasped, then filmed again. That's your policy. It's on every screen, Carla shrieked. Shut that off. But the servers looked stunned, paralyzed by what they were seeing. Elliot fumbled at the podium, swiping frantically. It's a glitch, he shouted. That's fake. It's not fake, Jasper said softly. It's from the internal chat logs. I've seen it. I've read every word. Avery posted again. Her caption read, This is their system. It's how they treat people. Watch the policy expose itself live. The post crossed 300,000 views within 4 minutes. Comments exploded. Tagging the DOJ now. Audit this place. Where's Yelp when you need it? A small group of guests began gathering their coats. We're not staying for this, one said. If this is how Lux works, they can keep their food. Another woman pulled her husband by the sleeve. Come on, let's not be part of this. The entrance clogged with movement. Waiters were now paralyzed, caught between retreating patrons and managers issuing conflicting orders. Vincent's voice cracked. That's fake. It's doctored. Carla banged her fist on a server tablet. Turn it off. Elliot leaned over the host stand and yanked the router plug from the wall. Lights dimmed. Some tablets blinked out. Simone, ever still, lifted her gaze toward the servers. You are free to walk away from this. What you're seeing is not an accident. It's design. Nia tapped a final command on her screen. Roland's going to feel this in 3 minutes. Stock alerts triggered. Parent company's about to get tagged by half the equity watchdogs in the state. Avery raised her phone again. This is live. If you're watching, share it. Don't scroll. This is what corporate profiling looks like. Right here in Beverly Hills. Simone checked her messages. One from Elena DOJ contacts flagged the stream. Inquiry may begin tonight. Another from Tanya Buyout offer prepared. Just say the word. Simone slid her phone back onto the table. The alarm lights had stopped. The fire alert silenced. No one had left her table. She took a sip from her refilled water glass. "Let them speak louder," she said. "They're only amplifying their own demise." Just then, Vincent turned to the crowd and shouted, "Do not listen to her. She's not who she says she is. This is all some tech scam. She's trying to take the business down from the inside." But even as he spoke, Avery posted again a clip of him shouting, of the fire alarm flashing, of Carla whispering to Maureen while staff screens broadcast the discriminatory message. The caption, "This is happening. Lux Bistro is falling apart live." Within seconds, the post crossed 500,000 views. Someone in the room said softly, "Is she really doing all this?" "While sitting there," another voice answered. She never raised her voice once. Simone didn't smile. Her face remained calm, determined, focused. The servers looked around as if waking from a long sleep. Jasper walked to the back, quietly removing his apron. Carla noticed and hissed, "Traitor." Jasper didn't turn back. The room was split now, between those who feared fallout and those who sensed history unfolding. Simone adjusted her sleeve, checked her phone again, and saw the number tick past 600,000 views. Then 7,000, Avery whispered. "One more push. The next post will break 1,000,000. Simone nodded. "Then let's give them something worth remembering." Police sirens crescendoed just outside the velvet-draped windows as Officer Derek Holt stepped through Lux Bistro's entrance, his eyes scanning the tense dining room where every gaze now landed on Simone Carter. Phones were raised, napkins clutched, glasses untouched. At the head of it all, Vincent Reed pointed directly at Simone, his voice edged with panic and pride. "That's her. The one disrupting everything. She's made threats, tampered with systems. She's not who she says she is." The desperation in his tone couldn't mask the fear. Officer Holt approached slowly, not rushing, not agitated. He'd been briefed mid-transit by dispatch, and by someone more informed than Vincent expected. Still, Vincent gestured wildly. "She's a threat to the establishment, Maureen Tate. In a gown worth more than her assistant's annual wage, tossed a cloth napkin directly onto Simone's plate, sneering. Real CEOs don't sit there while chaos burns." Carla, emboldened, walked over and deleted Simone's name from the front-of-house display, announcing, "Gone. No trace. Just a ghost." Diners laughed nervously, feeding off the unraveling. The jazz band had long since fallen silent. Avery Quinn's latest video, captioned "Still Happening," still ignoring her calm, still digging their grave, crossed 500,000 views on X as a ripple of public fury mounted online. Simone brushed the napkin off her plate with 2 fingers, as if flicking off dust. "Your careers are over," she said. Not loudly, but the words reached everyone. Vincent stammered. You can't threaten us in front of law enforcement." Officer Holt, arms folded, said nothing. Giselle re-entered the scene, now frantic, tapping away at the host tablet. "She's locked out. I removed her profile. She's nobody now." Preston Lyle stood near the table, eyes scanning Officer Holt for support. "Lux is for real players," he shouted, "for people who built something, not for those who snuck in through loopholes." Elliot Nash moved to Holt's side. "Phone out. We're flagging her as detained. Right now." A few guests clapped, perhaps relieved someone was doing something. One bold voice shouted, "Kick her out already." Simone didn't blink. "Everything you've just said is archived. You're making it easy for the Department of Justice." Carla leaned in from behind. "You're a disgrace to this place." Maureen chuckled bitterly. "She's out of her league." "Can't buy class." Then, without warning, Vincent shoved Simone's chair an inch back from the table. Not hard, not violent, but deliberate. A power move. A message. Simone didn't move an inch. She just stared at him and said, "You're finished." Maureen caught Officer Holt's attention. "Why are you just standing there?" She's clearly not stable. Remove her. Holt finally spoke. I'm here to observe, not to serve as your tool. He turned to Simone. Ma'am, do you need assistance or protection? Only from their incompetence, Simone said, calmly, not from their threats. The air thickened with embarrassment. Then she pulled a small USB stick from her pocket and handed it to Avery. Post this. Show them what they hid. Avery nodded and turned toward her laptop. But before she could upload, Elliot rushed forward, slapping it from her hand. It skittered across the marble floor. That's proprietary data, he yelled. That's theft. Simone leaned back, unmoved. You just assaulted a guest. Nia stood up now, her voice direct. And now we reboot. She tapped into Vanguard's secure servers and sent a command through Lux's own system. The security feed restored. Cloud logs resynced. A backup of the USB streamed into Avery's cloud. Avery smiled. Nice try. She uploaded the footage. Caption: They tried to destroy this. Now everyone will see. Phones across the room buzzed as the clip auto-played, showing Vincent instructing Elliot to reroute high-profile tables away from guests flagged by a non-conforming profile tag. It also showed Carla gossiping about keeping Lux looking upscale. Guests gasped. Some stared at the staff. Others looked at their own screens, visibly disturbed. Then the room's televisions, previously on silent loop showcasing Lux's brand imagery, glitched, static, flash, text. Internal protocol flag guest demographics for risk score. The dining room froze. Preston, eyes wide, whispered, That can't be real. Maureen turned to Carla. Did you know Carla didn't answer? Avery filmed the whole screen, slowly panning left to right, her voice calm. This is their secret algorithm. It flags guests based on identity. It's been operating for months. She posted, Caption Lux's secret code. You're not welcome. Unless you look the part. Within 3 minutes, her post crossed 1 million views. In New York, a civil rights attorney retweeted it with the word illegal. In Atlanta, a black restaurateur commented, This is why we build our own. Back inside Lux, Simone looked at her phone. Elena's message popped up. DOJ inquiry launched. I'm on the phone with them now. Simone typed a single reply. Proceed. Another text. From Tanya. We're ready to buy. Just say the word. Simone tapped once. Now, at that moment. Avery's latest post triggered a viral effect, a cascade of reposts and celebrity endorsements. Stock in Lux's parent company began to tumble. The restaurant's boardroom, just blocks away, was buzzing in red alert. Back in the dining room, a few patrons stood and applauded, not in mockery, but in support. Officer Holt turned to Vincent. You filed a false report. I'd suggest you stop talking. Vincent's mouth opened, but no sound came. Elliot, near the podium, watched in horror as another message appeared on the server screen. Parent company stock dropped 50% in 22 minutes. Carla stepped back. This can't be happening, Maureen whispered to Preston. We're going to be part of this headline. Preston nodded stiffly, frozen in place. Simone, still seated, turned to Nia. Everything in place. Nia confirmed buyout in progress. Tanya has Roland's silent partnership terms. Elena is reviewing liability waivers now. Simone tapped her phone once more. The message went out. At that exact second, Tanya sent an official digital offer to Roland Hayes. Lux Bistro was now under full bid review, while Simone Carter hadn't even stood from her table. Guests stared at her not with contempt now, but reverence. She hadn't raised her voice. She hadn't flinched. And yet, their entire world was shifting around her. Back at the bar, Elena toasted a quiet glass of water. Justice served. She whispered to no one in particular. Jasper, now off shift. watched everything with quiet pride. Avery whispered, "We're not just witnessing a takedown. We're watching a masterclass." Simone sat back, her hands folded in front of her. She had only just begun, in a sleek high-rise just blocks from Lux Bistro. Roland Hayes stood inside his glass-walled corner office, jaw clenched, fingers drumming the edge of a conference table lined with panicked executives. Their phones buzzed non-stop. On the mounted screen, stock data tumbled red. Lux's brand sentiment graph collapsed into negative zones, and trending topics on social media showed phrases like discrimination at Lux, black CEO denied dignity, and justice at a dining table. Roland's assistant stammered, "Sir, we're hemorrhaging value. 25% down since the first post. 48% now," another voice added. "We're trending below a $500 million valuation." DOJ inquiry confirmed. PR teams on hold. "What do we tell them?" Roland snapped. "Tell them to stall." But the fear in his voice betrayed the calm he tried to project. "Who's behind this?" he barked. "Why wasn't I told there was an incident? Where the hell is Vincent?" A junior executive shifted in his chair. Footage just posted shows Vincent flagging guests based on race, Carla lying to diners, Elliot falsifying POS data. The videos are real. Her name is Simone Carter. "Sir?" Roland froze. Simone Carter. The name hit him like a slap. Cold, humiliating, and undeniable. The Vanguard CEO. No one answered. They didn't have to. "She's the one who helped draft the DOJ equity guidelines." Another board member whispered, "The one with connections to the federal oversight team." Roland staggered back a step, piecing together the disaster too late. "Get her on the phone," he ordered. "Now, at Lux Bistro." The dining room was no longer chaos. It was quiet, controlled, like the eye of a storm Simone had summoned, then mastered. Her phone vibrated once. Tanya Wells, her broker, had just sent the offer. The digital acquisition of Lux Bistro and all its assets, including leases, systems, and staffing contracts, was now live. Simone remained seated, fingers laced calmly on the tablecloth. Nia whispered beside her. Roland just opened the email. "They're scrambling," Elena texted from the bar. "He's called 6 people in 4 minutes. They know it's real. They're scared." Vincent Reed, still trying to maintain some posture of authority, leaned in toward Simone. "You're not walking away from this untouched. You think you can just threaten your way into ownership?" Simone tilted her head, measured, calculating. "You already handed it to me. Every policy, every file, every incident you failed to report. You wrapped it in a bow." Elliot, hovering behind Vincent, whispered, "Sir, the control system's just locked. I can't access staff accounts. Her tech team has override clearance." Vincent turned pale. Override. How Nia didn't even look up from her phone. "We built your reservation infrastructure. Vincent, you've been operating on Vanguard's platform for nearly a year. You just didn't bother learning who you were working with." Carla, from the server station, watched as lights on her handheld terminal dimmed, then blacked out completely. "It's gone," she murmured. "Everything's locked. We can't process orders. We can't close tabs. We can't even pull tips." Around the room, murmurs rose again. Some guests stood and left in silence. Others filmed. Avery, still recording, zoomed in on the display screen behind the bar, which now read, "System under review. Property of Vanguard Solutions." Roland finally called Simone's phone. She answered it on speaker. "Simone," he began, his voice taut. This is a misunderstanding. Surely we can settle this privately. You had an opportunity to know your own staff." Simone replied evenly. "You chose not to. You allowed a culture of exclusion to thrive under your banner, and you denied me dignity at my own reservation." I don't settle privately when harm is public. You're about to cause people to lose their jobs, he said, trying sympathy now. And I'm about to save your business from extinction, she answered. But not under the same leadership. Roland's tone sharpened. You can't do this. We have lawyers. We have recourse. Simone's expression didn't change. The documents are signed. Funds will clear within the hour. Your legal team will receive confirmation of transfer. Lux is mine. In the kitchen, chaos erupted as orders failed to transmit. Ovens beeped with error codes, and Chef Martel threw his towel across the counter. What is happening out there? He yelled. No one answered. They didn't know anymore. Back on the floor. Carla stepped toward Simone, hands trembling. You're going to fire us. Simone didn't look at her. I'm going to hold people accountable. Carla's voice cracked. You don't understand how it is back here. The pressure. The culture. Simone slowly turned her gaze to Carla. You chose compliance over conscience. You lied because it was easy. And you laughed while doing it. Don't confuse pressure with permission. Vincent, panicked now, ran toward the back-of-house server, attempting to erase security footage. But as he tapped furiously, Avery's voice rang out, already backed up to 3 mirrors. Don't bother. She uploaded the final video, Vincent cursing, deleting, sweating, her caption. They're trying to cover their tracks, but receipts are forever. The post climbed to 1 million views within minutes. Tanya sent the last confirmation. Elena texted Simone. It's done. We own the brand. You can make the call. Simone stood for the first time since the ordeal began. The air shifted. The restaurant, once condescending, now cornered, watched her rise with awe and dread. She adjusted the sleeves of her blazer and looked to the staff still lingering nearby. Vincent Reed, Giselle Moreau, Carla Vaughn, Elliot Nash, you're terminated, effective immediately. A gasp rippled through the floor. Preston Lyle stood up, incredulous. You can't fire people from a table. Simone turned to him, calmly. I just did. Guests whispered. Some applauded. Others looked away. And just like that, Lux Bistro changed hands, not with a press release, not with a ribbon cutting, but with truth, technology, and the unshakable presence of a woman who refused to shrink. From a single chair, Simone had dismantled an empire built on exclusion and reassembled it for justice, and she was far from finished. Outside Lux Bistro, red and blue lights pulsed against the stone facade as more police units arrived, not to detain Simone Carter, but to control the swelling media presence forming just beyond the valet line. Inside, silence hovered like smoke. Diners stayed seated not out of fear, but reverence. Simone stood tall now, the low jazz long gone, replaced by the steady rhythm of incoming notifications on 100 phones. At the center of it all, she was composed, deliberate, as she took one slow step toward the middle of the dining room. Her voice rang clear, not loud. She didn't need volume. She had authority. I'm addressing Roland Hayes, she said calmly. Phone to her ear. Your restaurant no longer belongs to you. The final acquisition contracts were triggered 20 minutes ago. The funds cleared moments ago. Lux Bistro, as of this moment, is wholly owned by Vanguard Solutions. At the other end of the call, Roland could only breathe shallowly. Defeated. Please, he said softly, don't do this on camera. Simone's tone did not change. This isn't theater. It's reckoning, and you've already sold your stage. She ended the call and looked directly at Vincent Reed, whose face had turned pale beneath the warm house lights. Vincent Reed, you've lied to law enforcement, harassed a guest, and enforced a discriminatory algorithm. You're terminated. Effective immediately. His jaw dropped. You can't fire me in front of... I can, Simone replied. Because I now sign your checks. Or, rather, I used to. Officer Derek Holt stepped forward. Now fully engaged. Mr. Reed, he said, you're under investigation for filing a false police report and workplace misconduct. I'll need you to come with me, Vincent sputtered. This is insane. She's just a guest. Avery Quinn's phone beeped with a fresh notification. Her most recent clip had just crossed 1 million views. Carla Vaughn took a step back, eyes wide. Simone turned to her next. You mocked me. You spread lies. You stood beside injustice instead of beside integrity. You're also terminated. Carla's breath caught in her throat. Please, I didn't start this, but you chose to feed it. Simone moved on. Elliot Nash, you falsified records, tampered with evidence, and supported active bias enforcement. You're fired. However, she paused slightly. You'll be offered one option re-entry into a retraining and reform program. If you complete it and pass every stage with full transparency, you may reapply for a junior role. Elliot's voice cracked. Why me? Because you hesitated. Simone answered simply. The others never blinked. Giselle Moreau had tried to retreat toward the kitchen, but Simone's eyes found her. And you, Giselle, denied me a reserved table, invalidated my name, and did so with the full weight of performance. You knew what you were doing. You're terminated, and your eligibility for any Vanguard-owned brand is revoked permanently. Maureen Tate, from her corner table, raised a hand, voice dripping sarcasm. And what about me? Will you ban me too? Simone turned toward her slowly. Maureen, you'll never be banned. You'll be seated. Maureen raised an eyebrow. Excuse me, you'll be seated at every Lux location, and people will know who you are, not for your taste in wine, but for how you responded when justice walked through the door. Maureen flushed, red rising to her temples. Preston stood up abruptly. This is madness. Are we seriously letting this woman dictate the rules? Simone looked at him, expression calm. I didn't dictate anything. I simply revealed what already existed. Your world just couldn't survive transparency. Preston started to speak again, but Officer Holt raised a hand. Sir, I suggest you stop while you're still on the right side of the sidewalk. Avery, meanwhile, had stepped forward. People keep asking online, who is she? Simone looked at the crowd, then at the cameras now surrounding her. My name is Simone Carter. I'm the CEO of Vanguard Solutions. I've built systems that power this industry. I've advised the Department of Justice on equity compliance. I've shaped the very algorithm your business misused tonight. The room went completely still. Elena Ruiz, from the bar, raised her glass silently in acknowledgement. Tanya Wells, now visible through the glass entryway, gave a firm nod as she stepped inside. A waiter whispered. She's that Simone Carter, another answered. She's why my cousin finally got promoted at Biltmore Grill. She fought for that equity law. Simone continued. I didn't come here to be celebrated. I came here to enjoy a dinner I reserved, in peace. And instead, I was reminded of what still happens to women who look like me, even after everything we've built. Maureen stood abruptly, trying to spin the moment back. You're just angry. You wanted attention. You played everyone. Avery tapped her phone, broadcasting the moment live. We're still rolling, she said flatly. You want to keep going. Simone turned to Elliot one last time. The program offer stands, but if you decline, you'll be permanently barred from hospitality positions connected to Vanguard Tech. Elliot swallowed. I'll take the program, he said quietly. I want to be better. Simone gave a slight nod. Then show it. Then came the next twist. Extreme and sudden. Avery's phone lit up again. A post had just gone live, captioned simply, Who is she? The video showed Simone's journey, her graduation from Stanford, her founding of Vanguard, her viral speech on algorithmic bias in restaurants. Maureen tried to object. That's curated, that's PR. But no one listened. Her voice no longer mattered. The internet had spoken. Simone's name was trending. Her work was being cited. Guests were reposting Avery's clips with words like hero, leader, how justice should look. Even the bistro's own official account had been flooded with thousands of comments, all demanding reform, accountability, and apology. And then something unexpected happened. Simone turned back toward Elliot. You'll start tomorrow. We begin with how to listen. The rest of the staff stood frozen, unsure whether to follow, fear, or respect her. For the first time in the evening, Simone allowed herself to exhale. She wasn't done, but the storm had turned. And now, the rebuilding could begin the morning after the takeover. Lux Bistro's front windows were still streaked from the press lights. But the mood inside had shifted entirely. Gone was the arrogance, the hush of exclusion, the polished disdain worn like perfume. In its place, silence, humility, and a waiting staff unsure whether they still had jobs. Simone Carter stood in the center of the dining room once again, not as a guest denied a seat, but as the new owner, flanked by Nia Brooks and Tanya Wells, who quietly observed the remaining employees. Today marks a new chapter, Simone said, her voice composed yet unmistakably firm. Lux is no longer a stage for gatekeeping. It will become a national standard for inclusion, fairness, and transparency, and that starts with every one of you. She paused. No one here will be judged by how they look, but by how they listen, how they serve, and how they grow. Some staff nodded, others stayed frozen, unsure whether to believe her. You've seen what exposure can do. Simone continued. But reform isn't punishment. It's commitment. Then she introduced it Vanguard Equity, a company-wide initiative to audit, retrain, and reform every restaurant system under her umbrella. It would launch from Lux as the pilot site, complete with bias-free hiring protocols, anonymized resume reviews, pay transparency, and quarterly justice audits, all tied to staff bonuses. Tanya stepped forward next. The staff who stay and commit to the program will receive 2 months of pay while retraining, and full employment upon completion. We're not here to humiliate you. We're here to build something lasting. Jasper Cole, who had blown the whistle the night before, now stood by the bar, no longer hiding. If this had existed a year ago, he said quietly, a lot of people would still be here, and a lot of mistakes wouldn't have happened. Across the room, Elliot Nash remained near the host stand, holding a notepad instead of a tablet. He was already enrolled in the first training session, scheduled to begin that afternoon. Simone gave him a nod. Then Avery Quinn entered with her phone already recording. The internet hasn't stopped, she said. We're over 3 million views across all platforms. The public's watching to see what Lux becomes next. Good, Simone replied. They'll see more than a scandal. They'll witness a transformation. But even as the atmosphere began to soften, Elena Ruiz arrived with something far heavier. She placed a folder in front of Simone. We did a preliminary audit of Lux's internal files. She said, there's something else. Something big. Simone opened it slowly. Inside were spreadsheet printouts, payroll logs, tip pooling data, shift adjustments. A pattern emerged. Over the past 2 years, Lux had routinely shaved overtime hours, withheld bonuses from part-time staff, and rerouted gratuities meant for back-of-house workers into general management pools. Carla had been one of the recipients. So had Vincent. This is wage theft, Simone said, her voice lower now, jaw clenched. Elena nodded. We have documented records, signed reports, And at least 5 pay periods that violate California law, Tanya added. If this leaks, and it will, it won't just be a racial bias scandal. It'll be a labor crime. Simone looked around the dining room. The walls were still lined with gold trim, the linens still crisp. But now, they were stained with more than discrimination. They were soaked in greed. "Avery," she said slowly, "can you post a statement in 2 hours? Let them know what we found, but do it with clarity. This isn't about revenge. This is about truth." Avery raised her phone, already drafting it. Hours later, her post went live with the caption, "More secrets from Lux wage theft, hidden policies, and the silence behind fine dining." But it ends here. The reaction was immediate. Labor rights activists reposted it. Employment lawyers weighed in. Union leaders tagged other restaurants asking, "Are your books this clean?" Simone stood near the window, arms crossed. She wasn't surprised. She'd spent a career fighting systemic bias dressed up as protocol. But this wage scheme, was more insidious. It hadn't just silenced voices. It had stolen from them. "We'll fix it," she said quietly to Nia. But not just here. Across the industry. And so Lux, the place that once denied her a seat, became the blueprint for reform. Not with apologies whispered after the cameras left, but with change documented, published, and enforced. And Simone, who had arrived as a customer, had now become the architect of a revolution. Weeks passed, but the echoes of that night at Lux Bistro rippled far beyond the walls of Beverly Hills. For Vincent Reed, the consequences were swift and unrelenting. After being detained and questioned, he was released but disbarred from managing in any establishment tied to Vanguard systems. His name, once synonymous with exclusivity, now triggered headlines about profiling, falsified records, and wage theft. No reputable restaurant would touch his resume. The smug confidence that once defined him was gone, replaced by silence and a growing list of civil complaints. Giselle Moreau relocated within days, applying for lower-tier hospitality jobs in less recognizable towns. But the internet never forgets. A viral thread under the tag hashtag #SeatEveryone featured her face alongside quotes from the night she denied Simone a table. Carla Vaughn stayed in Los Angeles, but it was different now. The regulars who once tipped her lavishly looked the other way. No one asked for her section. She eventually took a position at a small diner outside the city, where she served quietly. Out of the spotlight, Preston and Maureen, though not employees, became cautionary tales. Maureen was removed from 2 charity boards after public backlash. Preston was dropped from his private club, not for what he said, but for what he revealed about the people who stayed silent. Lux Bistro, however, was alive, not just functioning, but transforming, under Simone's leadership. The first Vanguard equity pilot was underway. Staff wore name tags that read not just names, but roles they were training into. Host in progress, manager intern, equity lead. Guests were greeted not with suspicious glances, but genuine eye contact and warmth. Jasper Cole, once a quiet server afraid to speak up, now led the Justice Committee, a weekly staff forum to report concerns and audit fairness. Elliot Nash, once complicit, now walked into work daily with a journal and a question. What did I do today that challenged my bias? Simone saw it. And she didn't forget. Forgiveness, in her world, wasn't soft, it was earned, and Elliot was earning it. You chose growth. She told him one morning as he helped rework the onboarding script, "That matters more than your past." Avery Quinn continued to document the journey. Now, as an official media consultant for Vanguard, her updates didn't just cover the scandal. They highlighted the recovery, the healing, the rebuilding. One clip in particular, of Simone and Elliot walking the floor side by side, went viral for a different reason. The caption read, "Accountability isn't destruction, it's discipline with direction." It was shared by educators, business leaders, and even congressional candidates. Lux had become a symbol, not of scandal, but of the possibility within reform. And then came the final twist. A video appeared one Friday afternoon, unannounced. It was posted not by Avery, but by Carla Vaughn. In it, she sat at a small kitchen table, wearing no makeup, eyes puffy, voice quiet. "I didn't think anyone would listen," she said, "but I want to say it anyway." The video showed Carla apologizing, fully, without excuse. She admitted to mocking Simone, to enabling toxic culture, to ignoring her gut. "I was tired," she said, but tired isn't an excuse for cruelty. She ended with one sentence that stuck with everyone who watched. "If she could lead from a table they tried to take away, then I can start again from this one." Avery reposted it with the caption "Change at Lux." Simone watched the video alone in her office, then forwarded it to Nia, Elena, and Tanya with a single word: human. That night, Simone returned to Lux not in a blazer, not as a CEO, but in jeans and a soft cardigan. She took a seat at the same table they once tried to pull from under her. A hostess, new, young, and kind, brought her a glass of still water and a smile. "Would you like to see the new menu?" Simone looked around. The lights were warmer now, the music softer, the staff more diverse. And behind the bar, Elliot wiped down glasses while teaching a new hire how to greet without judgment. "No," she said gently. "Just let me sit a while." Because for Simone Carter, this table was no longer a battlefield. It was proof that justice could come fast, but dignity, when protected, could last forever. Have you ever been denied a seat you earned? If Simone's story speaks to you, hit subscribe and share your voice in the comments. Your story matters. Change begins when we speak. Justice grows when we stand together. So, where have you turned silence into strength?